Welcome back, everybody, to MCOC Al Bundy Rules. I got you the Absorbing Man tutorial today. Got lucky for those of you who saw my recent featured polls that I got. I got him, duped him, and even got a second dupe on him. So had some good stuff on my polls. If you haven't seen that video, it's some good watching. But what I'm showing you here first, before the tutorial starts, giving you a good 20 seconds of a few different pieces of stuff that he can do from some of his utilities, some of his damage. Now let's get into the molecular duplication. So this is always active. It gives him 20% crit resistance. It makes him immune to armor break and armor shatter debuffs, and it reduces his critical penetration by 20%. So there's ways we can get that back, but that can hurt his damage off the get-go. He is no stranger. One of my favorite things on him is his ability to reduce duration of opponents and indestructible, immortality, unstoppable, and unblockable buffs. So right here on the Kingpin, watch how quick this S2 unstoppable goes away. It's got a clip on the end. You see how quick that went away? So this is very helpful. We know Kabam likes some of these nodes lately, and watch this. This is a SIG 200 R4 6-star Hercules. You see how quick his immortality went away. Knowing that lasts quite a while, it was gone almost instantaneously after it began. Now on the Omni Morph forms. So this special attacks transform him into powerful altered forms. He's really got the two forms, the Black Uru, and this is how he starts, but there's also the pre-fight ability. You can toggle back and forth if you want to start the other one. I'm going to talk more about exactly what belongs in these soon. We will see that whenever a buff ends on the opponent or Absorbing Man is immune to debuff, the current form it pauses for 3 seconds. So it can keep that form active longer, and interrupting an opponent's basic attack with a light attack pauses the current form for 6 seconds and also give vulnerability. And you will see how he looks, the current form he has. You see the timer up top on that. I'm going to get more into the difference between the modes fairly soon and what they grant. Refined forms. If Absorbing Man would enter a form that's already active, he gets refined. So refined is great. You can also do this with S3 and a medium by medium with 150 charges I'll speak about. This gives him extra abilities. Personal burst of damage benefit 300% of Absorbing Man's critical damage multiplier when landing critical hit. In Refined, the special attacks are unblockable, and blocking a hit reduces the opponent's ability power rate by 72% until Absorbing Man stops blocking. The power defined is transferred to Absorbing Man, so you can actually take some of their power like that too by blocking while in Refined. Again, some of the pretty cool utility he has. Now go into the Morph Charges. When Absorbing Man refreshes or changes forms, he gains Morph Charges. These are easier to really gain if you're not running Suicides or Masteries setups, because of the fact you can really build them up the quickest with S1s and S2s or certain immunities such as Armor Break or Armor Shattered. In those type of situations to get them quick, otherwise you got to be doing a lot of S1s and S2s, which can cause you a lot of recoil. Once you get up to 150 charges, Morph Charges or more, you do a medium, light, medium. We're going to see right here, boom, 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 watch the timer, and you see how it refreshes right there. It also gives you a 30-second vulnerability passive, which gives you an increased potency for every 150 charges consumed. And now let's get into the heavy attacks. This attack gains a good critical rating damage if they're stunned. So if you do a parry heavy, you're going to get a nice damage. However, you get a way higher critical rating if you are able to do it while they're not stunned. Meaning, if the easiest way to do that is if you bait a heavy out of them and you counter heavy to their heavy bait, or special. You bait out the special and you counter heavy with them, you get a much higher critical rating right there. Activating a special attack after the first hit land applies a bonus critical rating to the entire special and grants 30 Morph Charges. So another way to get the Morph Charges, what we'll do is, you see that you can do the heavy. As soon as the first hit goes, go ahead and launch that into the S2, and we're going to see that right over here. You see the heavy. You see I launched into the S1 after that. We saw those charges right there, and that additional critical rating for the entire special. So some of the cool little things he can do as you learn him, and all of his little quirks and good stuff. Let's get into the special attacks. This is a big part on him. However, if you run Suicide Masteries and or Recoil Masteries, there are ways around switching forms or getting the most out of them without destroying yourself on recoil damage. On the special one, this is the main way to enter Black Uru form. So you would enter the fights with this by default or with the pre-fight, and by doing the S1s. It's 10 seconds. You gain immunity, bleed, and shock and you gain a massive physical resistance. It also gives you an extra burst of physical damage. Once you're refined, so if you are in Black Guru and you do it again, or if you do one of the other ways I'll show you, you can get refined. Absorbing Man can perform critical hits and trigger personal bursts of damage through the opponent's block. Onto the special 2. This is the main way you get into magma form, which you can also do with the pre-fight. This lasts for 18 seconds. It gives you immunity to Incinerate, Cold Snap, Frostbite, and a massive energy resistance. So you see 2 very cool immunity type of things based on his form. All attacks deal energy damage in this form, magma form, instead of physical, as well as burst energy damage. And if you get refined, meaning if you are in this form and you do an S2 and do it again, or an S3, then you get the Incinerate passes dealing energy damage. Let's get into S3. This is a big way to use, especially if you do run recoil masteries. You gain indefinite cruelty passive, increasing critical damage rating. If a refined form is already active, you gain a second cruelty. So if you already have a refined form and you do the S, you get a second cruelty. If you don't have it active, you do gain the cruelty right there. Activate the most recent form, that is refined state. Pause it for 15 seconds. While this pause is active, Absorbing Man gains a massive critical rating. So S3 is huge on him. If you do, especially if you don't want to juggle back and forth between S1 and S2, because of most likely if you are running recoil damage, that will hurt you drastically. So S3 is a great way around it, and I'll show you some rotations coming up soon. Here, there's a big part to this. This gives his Omniforms a longer thing on the signature build. It also helps a lot on the regeneration. We're also going to look at some of his synergies right now. I am running several synergies on this. The Tatiana one, medium and heavy attacks gain extra critical damage rating. The Thor one is nice. Medium attack inflicts an armor break. Second medium. The Daredevil HK combo meter can give extra block proficiency or critical rating depending on your combo meter. The Rogue one, non-damaging debuffs reduced by 50% except excluding stuns. I really like the Green Door synergy because that makes immune to poison effects. Could be very, very helpful. It also gives it longer Omniform. Tip 1, tips for use. In fights where defender can go indestructible, immortality, unstoppable, and unblockable, use him. Kabam has been on massive trends on nodes these days in a lot of endgame content. A lot of new champions have some of these abilities as well. That will make your life much easier using because they go quick. On tip 2, maximize your use on the immunities. So pre-fight, again, as I mentioned on pre-fight, it can help you as far as which way you want to start your immunities or your benefits, especially if you want to, you're going against someone like Iceman or something, you want to start on the Magma one as a good example. So we will see our immunities down there from the bleed. On that Magma, we see the Incinerate, Cold Snap, Frostbite, and Energy Resistance, as we had covered some of these immunities there. So really toggle between them, use them, and you can keep them maxed up. If you time things right, if you start off the immunity you want, you go to an S3, you can keep that up for the entire fight. It's not too hard, and I'll show you some of that in a bit. Rotate between forms, gain Morph Charges at 150. So especially if you're not running Suicides and or Recoil Masteries, how they're sometimes referred to now, just go between. Maybe you might start off with the Magma form active, then you might launch an S1, then you might launch an S2, then back to S1. You can keep going back and gives you those Morph Charges. Watch right here as we do the medium, light, medium, and you see how that refreshes and it makes it refined. So that is a great rotation. For Suicide Masteries, like I like to run, and or also called Recoil, I generally like to start a Magma. There's also a benefit in starting the Black Guru because you could avoid the bleed damage, but I find it easier to build it back up based on the longer Magma time frame. So I like to start with Magma personally. I keep doing pretty much 5-hit combos. I just build my power to S3. And this fight is approximately a 500,000 health pool defender. See, I started with pretty low health, and I'm just kind of working my way up. We'll see some of the damage here as I started with Magma mode, which is giving me some of that energy damage going in on there. None of those immunities are going to be particularly helpful to me in this fight, and there's some sloppy little take a combo in the head, but no biggie. He's pretty resilient. And right here, I just launched my S3. So this is going to bring back the last form I had him active in, which was Magma, which is why I started a Magma, because I want to keep my Magma going. I prefer Magma in many circumstances. Again, it stays up longer, easier to maintain is one of the big reasons. So I launched that S3. I'm going to keep working my way up to another S3. I'm going to primary focus on that, but as we will see here, I will occasionally try to bait out a heavy out of him or a special, and then I will counter heavy with it. Right there, you see the heavy, I did a heavy, and you get that extra critical damage, much more damage like that. So I'll get some extra hit damage by doing that as I'm working my way back up to the S3. And I'll just keep this rotation going. You do this correctly, it's very easy to stay in the chosen form, especially Magma, for the entire fight, especially good if you need those immunities or whatever it might be. And you're getting the good amount of damage too, and going through health pool fairly quickly while keeping a good amount of resilience. And we see how pretty quick and easy this was. So several different ways to play Absorbing Man, and which is one of the things that makes them fun. Great champ, really enjoyed them. Hope this helped. Don't forget to click that top left icon, subscribe to MCOC All Bunny Rules. Don't forget to check out my other vids, and don't forget to hit like. Thanks so much for watching.